Hi, and welcome to SpringPath's College and Career Readiness Success Tracks. I'm Elisa Ocone, Director of Outreach, and today we are digging into the do's and don'ts of the recruitment process. So, this episode is really geared towards juniors who are planning ahead, seniors who are starting to dig into this process, but not really at the point yet of filling out those applications. So, really, some general do's and don'ts and tips to set you on the right path before you get to that step of actually filling out those applications. So today we're going to talk about creating your SpringPath profile if you haven't done that yet, and then do's and don'ts in this process. All right, so let's start with creating your student profile. So at www.springpath.net, that is your opportunity to put in information about you. So your information, what you're looking for, your GPA, and then again, things to think about in terms of preferences and schools and or colleges, trade schools, things that you're looking to perhaps do after high school. So think about size of a school. Are you looking for small? Are you looking for medium? Are you looking for a school that has, 20,000 students? Location, so proximity to where we are now. Do you want to be in California? Do you want to stay close by? If religious affiliation matters to you, there's certainly an opportunity to filter that way as well. What are the academic programs you're looking for? What athletics are offered? So, all of that, all of those pieces of information to help filter and see with which schools you are compatible. And then, of course, to review those compatibility scores. And it's really a great first step to take if you really don't know what you're looking for or don't know what options and schools out there that could fit your interests, and a great way to learn about some that you've never heard about, don't know about, maybe you weren't on a short list if you did start to think about this already. So absolutely step one, before you can proceed with the application process, you need to know what's out there. And again, which schools you're a good fit for and with by looking at those compatibility scores on SpringPath. So let's dig into some other tips or do's in this process or as you prepare for this process. So, one thing I will say is once you have reviewed that list of compatible schools and schools that match well with what you're looking for, and you need to kind of narrow that down as you approach the application process, certainly you could match with, 30 colleges and or trade schools. You want to narrow that list down a little bit, but I urge you to consider a variety of options. So think about what is commonly referred to as safety schools, target schools, reach schools. And really what that's saying is there are those schools that you know or have a pretty good idea that you will get into, those that are more kind of your target. So maybe not quite sure, but have a pretty good chance. And then those reach schools where maybe they're super selective, really not sure, but would be, and again, the term is there for a reason. So it might be a reach for you, but certainly don't cross anything off the list when you're kind of examining your options and putting together that first list that you'll then go back and review again and talk about with your families and school counselors. But in terms of getting that basic list to start with, consider all of those types of institutions. And then, secondly, do your research on each one. That's a really good way to start paring down the list and to see which ones are safety, target, and reach for you. So, visit those colleges' websites frequently, dig in to their admissions page, their academics page. So, really get as much information about everyone as you can. Visit campuses. So it's never too early to start that process. There are multiple opportunities to visit trade schools, college campuses, whether it's information sessions, open houses in the fall, sometimes in the spring as well, preview days, um, individual tours. So sometimes you have the opportunity with your high school to visit colleges as well. Great opportunity, certainly take advantage. If you are a student athlete and you're hoping to perhaps play a sport at the college level, reach out to coaches. Certainly, the earlier the better. And again, if you're an athlete, Division One, Division Two, hopefully that process has already started with recruiting profiles and all of that good stuff. If you're thinking about maybe pursuing a D3 sport, again, never too early to get in touch with those coaches, let them know you're interested, let them know you'd like to be considered. Again, emails, phone calls, anything works. But again, what we hear from coaches all the time is the earlier, the better. All right, then this applies to everyone, really at every grade level, is to do what I call a tech check. So this is your time to assess your social media, clean up your social media. And the reason I say this is it is another piece of the application process. So though it is not stated and it will never necessarily be on anyone's checklist of admission criteria, admission counselors will look at students' social media profiles. So if there is anything on your social media accounts that you wouldn't want a college admissions professional to see, now's the time to kind of take stock of that, clean it up, and really think about it that way moving forward. There have even been stories about students who have had their admissions taken back after some questionable social media posts. So it is something that you want to clean up again from as early on as possible and continue to keep clean in that way moving forward, even after those applications are out in your senior year. So you need to be aware and cognizant of that. Another thing is to make sure that your cell phone voicemail box isn't full. There are times when, even as an admissions counselor myself, I have tried to reach out to a student, a prospective student, an applicant, wasn't able to leave a voicemail because that voicemail box was full. So it would be helpful, I guess, to set up your voicemail box, number one, and number two, make sure that voicemail box isn't full. Also, part of this tech check is to assess how you come across in email, and I would say phone calls and voicemails that you leave. So make sure that you are gracious, that you are thankful, that you are articulate. So when you send an email to an admissions professional or even a coach, have some sort of greeting. Hi, so and so, dear so and so. Then write the text of your message, which should be full words. Don't think of an email like a text message. So make complete sentences, use punctuation, check your emails for spelling errors, and then some sort of sign off, sincerely, and then your name, or thank you and your name. So just kind of assess your overall technical presence, your social media presence, and how you're interacting, phone, email, text, all of those things. And then be responsive. So you also need to make sure you follow up if, again, provided your voicemail box is cleaned out and someone from a college or trade school leaves you a message, get back to that person in a timely way. So check your email, check your voicemail again, and respond. And I know it can be crazy because probably right after you took the PSATs, uh, probably sophomore year, I'm sure your email box is flooded from information from colleges, and that will certainly increase as the years go on and you get closer to the time that you're applying. But pay attention, especially to emails from schools that you're really interested in. And if one is coming from, a specific person and not just kind of a mass email with information about the college, that you respond back to that person in a timely way. It shows interest, it shows you're on top of things. So definitely an important piece of the puzzle. And then lastly, check in with your school counselor. Hopefully, you've been doing this through the years anyway, but just check in and see if there's anything that you need to complete on the high school end before that application starts. So, whether it's getting a form signed and filled in, transcript requests, whatever it is from your school counseling office, just do a check in. Again, along the way, along your high school career is something that you should do. But at the very least, as you kind of start this college search process or post secondary career search process, definitely be in touch with your school counseling office and make sure that everything on the high school end that you need to do is on the up and up. All right. Luckily, our list of don'ts isn't as long as our list of do's, but there are a few things that I think are worth mentioning. And the first one is for all of you students listening out there, don't let your parents go through this process for you. For the parents watching and listening, don't do everything for your student. You should absolutely tag team this process, and family support, mentor support, school counselor support is necessary, but make sure that students themselves are doing the outreach. So students should be reaching out with questions to coaches and school counselors, or excuse me, college admissions counselors. Let the student advocate. So students out there, advocate for yourselves. And it's no problem if you want to craft an email to someone at a school, have a parent or an older sibling or a mentor look at that email and check it out before you decide to send it off. Absolutely. But don't have somebody else advocate on your behalf. I have seen students who weren't even aware that parents started to fill out college applications for them. So it can get kind of tricky, and we admissions counselors want to know that a student has gone through this process. This is what the student wants to be doing, and that when we call with questions, again, the student is aware, number one, that something's been started on their behalf, but again, they're invested in this process. It is the student with whom admissions counselors want to create that relationship, coaches as well. Again, it is not a problem to have family members along for the ride, but certainly let students kind of steer the ship, and be there as support and with guidance. Next, don't procrastinate. Even just in that list of do's, you can get a sense already that there will be many things on your plate come application time. So if you rush kind of the pre-steps, it will be a much more difficult time when application season is upon you. So don't procrastinate, don't rush the process. There are so many pieces of this journey that take a little bit of time and that take some reflection. Even the research piece alone, um, before you make those visits and before you kind of whittle down that list, before you decide where you're applying, there's a lot of time and effort and energy that should go into this process. It's a really big decision what you're going to do after high school and where you're going to end up. So again, don't take it lightly, don't procrastinate so that you don't have to rush the process. And then I would say don't limit your options when making your list. Oftentimes, it's easy to hear from other people, oh, don't apply here for this reason, or this place is too selective, or this place is too expensive. I really think that when you're digging in and doing your research, if there is a college that seems like it would be a great fit, both because of the number of students, the location, what's offered there, if you feel like it would be worth your time to apply, then do it. You can always, once those acceptances come in, decide what's the right fit for you. And that's certainly a whole other discussion for a later date. But don't limit yourself when you're exploring places that you could potentially apply to. You never know what financial aid packages are going to look like. So don't be scared away by the sticker price of a college, because, again, you never know what those packages will look like when they come in. Or, again, to shortchange yourself and say, oh, I don't think I would get in here, so I'm not going to apply. Yes, there are certain things you can gather from a college's website in terms of what they're looking for overall. But in this world of holistic admissions, you never know. Every student has a story. So really don't limit yourself when you're making that list of prospective schools that you will apply to. And then lastly, don't make assumptions. And this is really, don't make assumptions that every school you're applying to is going to have a particular major or a particular sport. When working in the field, I have had students who, even after depositing, so making their deposit and committing to a particular college, then want to know how they go about trying out for the cheerleading squad when the school that I worked at didn't have cheerleading as a sport. So really don't make assumptions. Don't assume that all schools offer the same majors or in the same way or operate in the same way, because it's not the case. So that's why on the earlier slide it was do your research, really dig in and make sure that that final list that you come up with that is worth your time to apply to has what you're looking for. And again, that gets back to kind of all of the bullet points here, why you shouldn't rush the process. So don't limit yourself, but also don't make assumptions. And the only way you can do that is really by digging in. That kind of covers general tips as you start thinking about this process. But the other thing I will say is, though it can be overwhelming, remember to relax. There's a whole lot of information out there. There's, yes, a lot to tackle, but take one thing at a time, one task at a time, one step at a time. I'm a big proponent of making a list. So make a list of all the things you want to explore, the websites you want to visit, the requirements that you need to assess. So make a list, but enjoy the process. Enjoy exploring what your next steps could be. Thanks so much.